So what would you like to
Oh
talk
gosh.
about?
So, I've got some, like you said, I know you're excited about some of my picks. My first one that I want to talk about is Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Yay.
Um, which is definitely like one of the seminal women warriors types of films. It's fairly well known, without being like, way too mainstream, because I know we like to try to get some stuff that maybe people haven't seen. But if you're into this kind of genre and this type of film, there's a good chance you've seen it or you're at least familiar with it.
Oh yeah.
It's very, very iconic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So this film came out in the year, oh gosh, I think it was 2000 or 2001.
2000.
2000, yes.
I saw it in
Wow.
the
Um,
theater.
Wow.
yeah,
Mm.
I'm envious. That's amazing. I
I
wish I
know.
had seen it in the theater.
Mm.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Because again, I was young then, but I definitely think I would have enjoyed seeing that just because it's so beautiful. It's one of those films
Yeah.
that you just see it. It's so visually stunning, in addition to just the story being really compelling and like the fight choreography being amazing. It's just, you just watch it and you're just like, oh, this is like a feast for the eyes. It's gorgeous.
Mhm.
Um, so story-wise, just in case, any listeners or anybody on the panel hasn't seen this one, this is set in 19th century China during the Qing Dynasty. So, Li Mubai is a swordsman who is seeking enlightenment, and he decides to give up his very important sword, the Green Destiny. And he entrusts it to a woman, Yu Lien, and so she is supposed to take care of the sword, deliver it to another character, Governor Yu, but it gets stolen, and so a lot of the film is trying to recover the sword that has been stolen, and it's this very important, artifact that she is trying to recover. Uh, and so it's the story of these characters trying to deal with this artifact and also just their relationships with each other. Um, so another thing with this film is that it has a lot of actors who are very, very important kind of within like martial arts types of films. So this is a wuxia film, so it's not like straight kung fu as it is practice. It is very like fantastical elements. There's a lot of flying around, all of this really cool stuff. But
I have a definition for wuxia. I'm gonna lay
I would
out
love to hear your
later.
definition of
Well, I
wuxia.
did one last week, but I forgot what I said, so I have to look it off again. But it's
Fair
right here.
enough.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I want
Okay.
to hear your definition. What is
Yeah,
it?
give it
No,
to
no, I was
us.
gonna do it with my stuff, but I mean, yeah, it dies in. I mean, wuxia was like the earliest wuxia books were written 2,000 years ago. Um,
Yes, it's
and
a cultural tradition.
the Ming Dynasty is what, like 400 or 500 years, and during that period, or I guess right before that period, the water margin is probably the most important one. And I always forget this guy's name. Let me see if I wrote it down. Did I write it down? And can I pronounce it? That's the two major questions. I think I can.
Taylor
Here we
don't know
go.
how to pronounce it.
There's a chance I'll know how to pronounce it. I do my
If I do
I
it
do do my
slowly, I can
best, but
pronounce most
sometimes I'm like,
Chinese.
want to double check this one.
You're
So
good. Yeah, you're
Yeah, you're
great
good.
at that.
I do my best. It's something that's very important to me, and
Okay.
especially because I actually do study kung fu, and so it's very important to me. I really do try to get the names like as well pronounced as I can, being somebody who
Yeah.
does not speak Chinese. I know like a few words and phrases, but not a lot.
I only know what's written down. So in this case, so wuxia literally means well, it literally means a martial or military or fighting hero or vigilante.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So that's, in other words, it's all around martial. In other words, that encompasses why they use weapons, whereas kung fu is bare fists and no weapons. But
Actually, we
and
do use weapons in kung fu, but
they do
What?
use weapons in kung fu,
yes,
but this
we
one
use
there's a
like
lot
bow
of
staffs, we use swords. There,
right.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
bow staff.
there's
But
weapons involved with it.
but in wuxia, it's the default more than
Yeah,
the hands.
yeah.
And
There's always weapons.
there's a term
Well,
called jianxia. Hold on, wuxia. So it's jianxia, and that means a swordsman or a swordswoman. So
mhm.
that's like your character in that kind of story. and they also live in this place. I remember I told you about this last time, Kaylin, and you thought it was kind of crazy. I mean, kind of cool. Um, I just
Cool,
trying to
crazy, same
I'm
thing.
trying to pronounce it right though. I think it's Jianghu, and it's the concept. It's literally where these movies take place.
Hmm.
But it's kind of like the story that I write called Flicker Street. I'm not going to
Hmm.
plug myself anymore in that, but it is like that in that
Go
it's
look
a
it up.
it's a fictionalized for China.
Hmm.
It's not
Okay.
exactly geographically historically
Hmm.
accurate.
It's like
And
Metropolis or Gotham,
Yeah,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's not New York, but
but it is.
exactly.
You
It's
can
where your
tell where the
heroes operate.
inspiration is drawn. It's like a
right.
fantastical version. Um, yeah.
And it's really amazing because America is such a young country, and so for us, most of us, the old West is like way long ago. These legendary fighters, and then stuff like we're talking about is like way, way ancient Greek. But the wuxia
Hmm.
writers, they said set adventures in their culture when it was really like that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
2,000 years, and when they got to the King Dynasty, they're doing what we're doing, but it's their own culture, and they're still living it. It's a
Hmm.
continuum. And but I read that the attitude changed um, in 1911. I think they had something called a May something. It was some kind of incident, like a riot or some kind of cultural seismic shift in their culture.
Mm.
And basically, the people who were into wuxia and wrote about wuxia and were aficionados were non-Confucianism. They shunned Confucianism. They shunned the family marital unit. They shunned the government and the military. So
Mm.
so wuxia characters are like Ronin, basically. That
Mhm.
they're not drawn. Unlike samurai, they're not high class people. The wuxia characters are usually from the lower class, and then they go on that hero's journey and you know achieve whatever. But
Mhm.
anyway, you ahead. I've talked enough.
No, and that's really cool, and I love that kind of like lower class heroes like building themselves up, learning all of this, and that like to me as somebody who studies kung fu, also like it really speaks to that as well because like with the Shaolin Temple and everything, it's like they will take children in off the street and raise them kung fu, teach them like all of the monastic traditions and everything. And so you have these people growing up in that culture, like immersed in it, and then having characters like that in wuxia, like it's very complementary to how it is in real life, even though it's like a heroic, like really blown up kind of fantasy version of it. So it's a really cool cultural tradition there. Um, Oh yeah, I was gonna talk about the actors in this film because a lot of them you will see in a lot of these films, especially the women actors who are in this. There's several who appear over and over and over again.
You won't see Chow Yun Fat though.
Yeah,
That was his first martial arts movie ever, and
yeah, yeah.
he had to learn to speak Mandarin. He said it was harder than learning English.
Yes. Yeah, and that's actually another thing is just the linguistic quirks of this movie are so interesting because you have a lot of people learning to speak Mandarin well for the purpose of making this film. And of course, my favorite actress who's in this film, Michelle Yeoh, is actually Malaysian, and so she's not even Chinese, and she's learning for this film. And then she appears in so many of these Chinese films, and it's a cool thing. So
Hmm.
yeah,
And she's a
Michelle
real
Yeoh
martial
is
artist.
she is, yes, and
Yeah,
oh my God, and she's so good. And you'll see these films that she's in. She does her own stunts. She's just phenomenal,
yeah,
and
she's
just
incredible.
I'm such a fangirl for her. I love her. I love her so
Yeah.
much. Yeah, definitely a favorite for me. And Ziyi Chang is another one. She's in a lot of films. Pei Pei Chang is another one. She's in a lot, and is kind of one of those like, founding mothers of the kind of this type of thing.
Yeah, I'll talk about her later. But
Yeah, yeah. I know you got plenty to say about her. She's awesome.
she's awesome.
Yeah. So phenomenal cast in this film. Real martial artists definitely is another thing that's really great about this because even though it's like all these fantastical elements, the martial arts are real. It is using like moves and forms and styles that you would actually see. It's just that they're very stylized. And so one of the things in wuxia is that you often will have characters like literally like flying around, like somebody will jump up and do this like really dramatic, like long, like flying at each other. One of my favorite scenes in the film is when they're fighting in like a bamboo forest, and everybody's like, you know, bouncing off of the bamboo and fighting each other. And it's like, oh, it's so cool. It's
Yeah,
so,
that
so
stuff
cool.
was new to Americans, but I mean,
It
it's
was,
very
yeah.
old to Chinese. And actually,
Yes,
that's
yeah.
another thing I found out, the wuxia novels that were written toward the end of the Qing dynasty were the first ones that introduced like the female heroine, the female swordswoman, and introduced everything you're talking about, all the supernatural powers.
Hmm.
That so by the time you get into like well into the 20th century and movies, you know, that's old hat to them. But to
Yeah,
us, it was
yeah.
like, why, you know, Americans were like, why are they bouncing around? Bruce Lee couldn't fly, you know.
Yeah. And then like you look at the timeline for all of this, and like the Qing dynasty lasted from like the mid 17th century into the early 20th century. And in a lot of Western cultures, you're not seeing as many stories of these women who fight. You do see some. Like, you know, I did some research when I was an undergrad on women warriors in like Spanish theater, basically like Shakespeare's contemporaries. So that was kind of a cool thing. Um, so you see those, but I think that like China has this really long-standing tradition of these women warriors in their stories that has been around for centuries, and even longer. If you consider like Fa Mulan, for example, is this character who's been around for a very, very long time, like in ballads and such. And I think that also translates to film. Henry and I had a conversation about how like we were trying to find like examples that weren't necessarily from East Asian cultures, but like, gosh, China and Hong Kong are so far ahead of like everybody on
Yeah.
this, and it's they have
Americans were really
crazy.
late to thinking that women could fight.
Yeah, they really didn't. They really
Embarrassingly
didn't.
late compared to most of the rest of the world, especially
Yeah,
Asia.
which is also hilarious because one of my favorite historical women warriors is actually Revolutionary War veteran Deborah Sampson, whose
Oh,
husband was able to get benefits as the widower of a veteran. And I was just like, yeah, like, oh, she's so cool. So this is a big, like, autistic special interest of mine. I could go on all day. I'm going to shut up and get back to the film now.
okay.
I love it. So, trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say about Crouching Tiger. I think I've covered most of the points I wanted to talk about. Although, the historical significance of the film is also very important. I do want to touch on that real quick, because, like Henry said, these types of stories with these women warriors were very new to Western audiences in film, in particular, and this film also is very important historically, as like a foreign film really taking off
Mm,
with Western audiences.
yeah.
I don't uh last time we worked on this, I had all of the like awards pulled up. I don't right now, but you know, there was some stuff with like foreign language film, and just they had like a crazy number of nominations as well as actually won awards,
Hmm.
and they held the record for that for like an insane amount of time. I think it was like 18 years or something like that.
Wow.
Hmm.
And then another film tied, and yeah, it was just it was bananas. So very, very important film, like just within film history as well.
Yeah. I was getting into Ang Lee
Yeah,
right before that came out because I
yeah.
had seen the
You
Ice
sound like
Storm.
a hipster. I love
Well, I
it.
mean, I hadn't seen his
Or
early
Crouching
stuff.
Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Oh, there's like, you know, Eat Woman Drink whatever, that movie. I never finished it, but in The Wedding whatever, they're
Right.
fine, but they're like you know, kind of satirical Chinese romance dramas, and you know they did pretty well. But so I knew who he was, and then I saw Ride with the Devil, and I saw Night Storm, and both of them are totally different from each other, and yet brilliant in their genre. And then you do
Hmm.
Crouching Tiger, same, and to me personally, I think Hulk is unique in its genre. I appreciate what he did with Hulk. I'm one of only five humans on Earth, but
You
I feel
really
like
are.
I feel
That's
like
fine,
I
though.
got that movie.
Yeah.
That's not saying it's like the greatest superhero movie, but it's an Ang Lee movie. It's not,
Hmm.
it's not an assembly line product,
You appreciate what he was doing with what the concept was and like putting his own spin on
Well,
it.
and the other thing is fan bros disseminate so much mis and disinformation.
They
Most of that
do.
movie is a straight adaptation from the comic books.
Hmm.
Different eras, fused together,
Hmm.
but it's not stuff that Ang Lee just arbitrarily made up. It's all
Right,
in
right.
there.
Hmm.
And it all hinges on that childhood trauma. And that was created by Bill Mantlo, who wrote the Hulk for like 5 years or 6 years. And he was the first one who said, what's this rage coming from? It's Bruce's abusive father. And so it comes out as this personality. Um, Sadly, Bill Mantlo, by the time Hulk came
Mm.
out, the movie, he couldn't really appreciate it. He had this, he apparently, even at his age, he was skating all the time.
Yeah.
And did you
Mhm.
hear about that, Bill? He had an accident.
Yeah. He was, I think, hit and run, or he was hit by a car.
Yeah, he
Ooh.
was hit by a car.
He's alive,
Still,
but he's
Ooh.
But
yeah,
he can't care for himself even.
Right.
Yeah.
it's
God, that sucks.
it's all
luckily,
sending
I
bugs.
think the fact that he created Rocket Raccoon has
Yeah.
gotten some funds his way. So
Oh, absolutely.
That's good.
Absolutely.
Nope.
Love that
Nope.
character.
Yeah, his creation of Rocket Raccoon predated that. But I do think Marvel
I
has
think
helped-
Marvel helped
has
him just
helped,
because they
but
don't want that
yeah,
on their
yeah,
conscience.
but he unfortunately no, he's not really seen what he should have seen on
Oh no,
residuals on Rocket, because it was still work for hire in the 70s.
Sure,
when he created
sure.
Mm.
it, unfortunately.
Love exploitation. Love exploitation. Great. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
any more thoughts on Crouching before we go to another a panelist?
Contestant. What are we competing to
Candidate.
win?
No
I'm
one
interested
knows.
in winning things. I
Yes.
probably couldn't, given that I'm, like a co-producer now. It would be one of these guys. But no, I think I'm good on Crouching Tiger. I think I touched on everything that I wanted to bring up.
Sure. No, you did a good job.
Thank you.
I have written down on the list Richard is next.
Okay.
Before you do, I might have to say adios, guys. And
All right, amigo.
Adios.
enjoyed it. Thank you.
See you
Hey,
later.
and I'm
Loving
sure
hearing
it will
Spanish
work
and
this
New
time,
Zealand
and this will
accent.
be
That's
able to be
delightful.
recorded and posted. So good
Sounds
luck.
good.
Okay.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
everything.
Justin.
Have a good
Have a
one.
good rest of your day.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
Take care. Yeah, Justin did a great job. He basically covered for you while you weren't here. He was kind of like,
Appreciate
it's like
him
kinda
very
like
much for that. I will
surrogate
thank him
Caitlin.
personally
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah, he was good.
Yeah.
So Richard, yeah.
Well, the woman warrior I want to explore tonight, the first film I'm going to dive into is Lady Snowblood from 1970, directed by Toshiya Fuji. And she is a character that was created by Koike Kojima, who created also Lone Wolf and Cub manga series. It was a manga that he created, and film was made of it in 1970, and it stars the amazing Meiko Kaji, who is pretty ubiquitous in a lot of 1970s Japanese genre films. Although more typically, she's seen playing female bikers and prisoner scorpion, female prisoner scorpion series. In this film, she is a character who was literally born for revenge. She was born, her mother was in prison, and there's a raging snowstorm going, and she gives birth during this snowstorm, and she's assisted by her fellow prisoners. And after she gives birth, she tells her backstory to the fellow inmates. And apparently, there was a gang of criminals in this town that murdered her husband and her son. And
Her. I just wanted to say the murder is based on some real things that were happening in Japan in that time period.
yeah,
Because the blood tax was going, and so they were basically the equivalents of bounty hunters killing her family. That's why they killed them. Yeah, but
and during the murder, she's raped and kidnapped by one of them and becomes a sex slave. It's I believe 3 men and one woman that perpetrate this crime, and she becomes a sex slave of one of them. And at the first opportunity, she kills her captor. And unfortunately, as she's murdered someone, she has to go to prison. So that's where she ends up, and that's where she gives birth to her child. And she names her child Yuki after snow, uh, and, uh, and then dies. And the child is given to a very stern monk who teaches her the art of swordsmanship and how to survive, and subjects her to some grueling tests of endurance, like putting her in a barrel and rolling her down a hill. And but I'm sorry, before her mother dies, she tells her child, the infant child, that she was born to avenge the murder of her husband and her half brother. And but Mako Kaji's presence in the film is what really makes this film. She mostly acts with her eyes. She doesn't have a lot of lines in the film. Um, and throughout the plot of the film, she's basically wandering around looking for the people that murdered her half brother. Oh, as she was conceived, actually, she was conceived in the prison by her mother seduced the prison guards to create a child for revenge. And
Powerful.
yeah, but Mako Kaji's presence in the film is what really is the best thing about it. The film is visually stunning. Japanese camera crews of those of that era knew what they were doing. Even in the most cheapest, shoddiest half-assed productions, the camera work is always incredible.
Me and Bill were talking about that a couple of sessions back about the second female convict Scorpion movie.
Yeah,
How it's just like, it's considered low rent exploitation, but it's like gorgeous. It's just like stunning.
Well, I've been watching a lot of these films lately, and I'm noticing the framing, the quality of the camera work, everything is spot on. I don't know how much
Japanese are
time they
great
had to
craftsmen,
storyboard
man.
these things. I doubt they storyboarded them, but you would think that they did because they're so beautifully set up. Every shot is amazing from a design perspective. They're usually arranged very beautifully, and that they take great use of atmospherics. Like, a lot of this film, including the climax, takes place during snowstorms. And Quentin Tarantino very famously pastiche not just the character of Lady Snowblood, but also a lot of the finishing scene of the first film in Kill Bill. But Mako Kaji was not just an actress, she was also a singer. She had quite the career. She started out her career after high school playing, delinquents, biker chicks, things like that. And then also had a singing career and did quite well.
She's a great singer.
I won't give you too many spoilers for the rest of the film. I do recommend it very highly. I think if you're going to watch one genre film, Japanese action genre film, this is the one to watch. And what's amazing about her and what fits in with our topic of Lady Warriors is that she effortlessly, 20 guys will run at her and she will make a few balletic moves in a hole, that they fall like trees,
Bad.
the way she moves
Good
is so
riddance.
beautiful in her presence. And she would have been an amazing silent film actress because she does so much with her face. So much of her dialogue are just shots of her expressions, keying in on people, taking in scenes. And she's quite amazing to watch. And the way she moves with her sword, she has a sword in her umbrella. She pulls out like a sword cane. And
So cool.
she is so badass. She's amazing because she has that kind of classic Japanese feminine beauty. I'm gonna contrast that to in my second film. I'm gonna talk about later to another character. But I think there was a sequel, Lady Snowblood 2, Love Song of Vengeance, that wasn't quite as satisfactory. I do recommend it, but definitely catch the first one. The second one is kind of, there were some problems with the script and they kind of lost direction with the character a little bit. Had the same director though, but that's all I have to say about Lady Snowblood.
Good
I
job.
was really wanting to catch the second one before we went on, but I got too busy and time got away from me. But I just wanted to say, man, the thing about Lady Snowblood that I found just incredibly intelligent was really there was kind of an inversion to one degree or another of the whole revenge arc trope because I don't know, just it seemed to me as though she kind of, as she goes on, she really kind of starts gradually losing her revenge cachet. It's just, okay, that was a little less earned than the killing before it. And then the killing after that is even less. It's like, but not going to go too much into the deets behind that. But it almost seemed to be kind of a semi anti-revenge movie.
Yeah.
So are you saying like she lost your sympathy at a certain point?
It kind of goes in gradations, I think. It's just it's kind of like, okay, well, at this point you're basically, beating up on a child in a wheelchair, and but I don't know.
Yeah.
Just my impression.
It's I guess it's supposed to be corrupting her.
Yeah.
I can see them going that route. Yeah, you start out with a holy mission, but you allow it to corrupt your soul, basically, and you start becoming as bad as what you're acting out at.
And
I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know, but that's a theme that you see sometimes. Yeah.
The other problem is if you
typically
succeed,
make these
what's
kind
left?
of films. It
Yeah.
was kind of a side thing for him. He typically made films about disaffected youth, and later he went into the Iro Guro kind of pinky violence genre. So he may or not know what to do with himself during this, but it really does work because it is atypical of that form, I think, and that's one of the things that makes it interesting.
He's got a sadistic streak in that film. I mean, and the Iro Guru and Pinky Roman movies are obviously the ultimate outgrowth of that. And I'm gonna let you talk in a second, Bill. I know you got something to say. The series that copies Lady Snowblood, I don't know how many of y'all have seen that. It's just two parts. Female Yakuza Tale and Sex and Fury are there in opposite order. So those star Reiko Ike and her characters Ocho Inoshka. And Ocho Inoshka is like a gambler and she does tricks people to survive, but she also has like a trick cane, and she's like Lady Snowblood except gorier, sexier, less elegant. I mean, and almost always naked. She'll have whole fight scenes where her top falls down, and it's like no big deal, And of course, that also spotlights just this incredible kind of Yakuza-like, half of a Yakuza-like tattoo across her. And her final battle is in the snow, and she's been, and
is she set in the 70s or 80s? When is this?
She is set. The movie came out in the early 70s. It's set in 1905.
Okay.
Because the first movie, Christina Lindberg, the Swedish icon who played in Thriller: A Cruel Picture, she plays a secret agent who has a Japanese boyfriend, and they kind of I don't remember what the event was, but they tie it to some kind of historical event of that time period. So she operates in like the 1900s, the 1900s in those two movies. But go ahead, Bill.
No, I was just going to say, I think you're very perceptive about Lady Snowblood. I like it, but there is that melancholy aspect to it. The problem with living a life of vengeance, especially when it's very specific, I'm going to get the men who, raped my mom. Once you get them, if you succeed, okay, now what? What's what?
Left? Yeah.
You've devoted your life to this cause. It's taken a while. It's kind of too late to go back and, start over. What now? Do you become Batman and go kill other rapists? I mean, that'd be kind of cool.
That would be kind of cool. I would like to see that.
But I think
That sounds great.
That's
feeling I
that's
get
the
from
Death
him-
Wish series, is it
right,
not?
Yeah.
right. The feeling I get from them though is that once it's over, they're just going to slit open their bellies, and that's the end of it. There's no,
And we're done.
yeah,
Fulfilled my life's purpose already. All
Right.
right.
It's like training for the Olympics.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
right. It's like, what do you do after that? Although people do, something that's always been really interesting to me is seeing people be very intense about whatever purpose they decide they want to go for, and then they just go accomplish something else and something totally different. I always find that fascinating. Just people who are exceptionally driven like that. It's like you can do so many different things. And that's really cool. I also what you guys were talking about with kind of the like the revenge story and everything, and especially like what Chuck said about kind of the character losing sympathy over time, where it's just like, all right, okay, I get it, I'm on board. Okay, maybe you're getting a little carried away there. I think is what makes revenge films and stories so interesting is like this, there's this like discussion in a lot of them about like, is revenge actually a good or useful thing? Is it something worth pursuing? Does it ultimately corrupt you? Does it ultimately consume your life? Is it justifiable? And all of that. And I find that so fascinating. Because
I think in art, as a consumer of art and a writer,
yeah,
I think everything you just said is case by case.
it is.
I don't think
Well,
there's
yeah.
any
That's
one
how I think of
answer
it
or
too.
10 answers
No, I
Right.
think
to those questions.
You bring up something
depends on
else
the
too, that
character. Go ahead, Phil.
vengeance creates more vengeance. It's
Mhm.
heavily
It
implied that,
does, yes.
the bride kills, the one actress, the one character has a daughter. Now, okay, she's going to grow up to want vengeance against the bride.
Exactly.
Right.
Lady Snowblood, one of the characters she kills is, the guy, and he has a daughter. This daughter has every much reason to desire vengeance, as if you don't get them in the first couple of weeks after their tale of whatever it is they did, they go on and live lives. There's people who only know them as a father or a brother or a wife, whatever. They don't know about all the bad things they did. And so where does it end? Does it ever end? That being said, there are a few things in life that feel better than vengeance. I mean, let's be honest here. There are a few things that just give you a warmer feeling than justifiable vengeance. A bad person who's done a bad thing, and you give them some payback.
Yeah.
I will sleep like a baby that night. My dreams will be untroubled.
I think the best example of, well, not example exactly of what you're saying, but it's like, it's a loop. It closes the circuit you just mentioned, is the movie we covered. I don't know if anyone else here, but you and I were at that one when we covered Old Boy. So that's a loop. The guy gets out of the thing. He's seeking revenge desperately, but the guy is seeking revenge against him, and that's how he ended up there. So it's like Ouroboros. I mean, and I think I know with that trilogy, I really feel like, because I almost talked about Lady Vengeance, but I decided that was just too heavy for me to get into right on this one. But I think in that trilogy, Park Chan-wook does manage to examine a lot of the questions that we're raising, and give interesting kind of takes on it, even back to Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, where, the guy obviously wants revenge for his daughter being kidnapped and killed, but he has no idea the guy accidentally killed the daughter, because the guy is this deaf, mute, kind of, indigent guy. I mean, it's just like, so it's a tragedy all around, but anyway, so Chuck, how about a movie, man?
Yeah.
How about a movie? Okay. Well, by the way, I think we have a catchphrase to toss around for eternity now, with the notion of 1800s therapy, or rather, revenge as 1800s therapy.
Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna go out and get me some 1800s style therapy.
I love that. Also, the fact that my wife is a therapist makes this extra funny. I am definitely telling her about this.
Oh my god.
1800s therapy, man. That's good.
But anyway, neither here nor there. I have 4 here, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cram the first 2 into a very short, sharp little thing that I can bang out fairly quickly.
Okay, we'll come back around to you. Don't worry.
Yeah, Yeah, you come back around to me, but I'm hoping to maybe
you can
ameliorate the damage a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
no worries, man. It's cool.
So my first choice in this little song and dance is going to be She-Mob, which is a kind of trashy 1966 exploitation flick. And it concerns a group of female convicts who bust out and hole up at this old farmhouse. And the leader of the gang is Big Shim, and she's big and she's tough and she's scary, and she's got this other little convict named Baby who's kind of her pet, let's say. And the other three girls all want a man. The other three girls are not particularly, for the most part, noteworthy as far as characterization goes, but they want a man. It's been like X number of years since they've been in joint. And so Shim, back when she was on the outside, kind of ran in kind of crime circles where she knew this one gigolo named Tony. And so she gives Tony a call. Tony is living in kind of a swanky place, and he's basically the kept boy of this lady named Brenda, who's very wealthy. Now, Marnie Castle is the actress who plays both Big Shim and Brenda. And
for budgetary reasons.
For budgetary reasons. Yeah, everybody, just
we're in something weird territory here.
Yeah, we're in something weird territory. You see 3 or 4 actors in this, half of them are also crewing it. Right. And this is definitely the case with that. But she may not be terribly successful as the heiress, but she kills as Big Shim, and that's my choice for woman warrior in this whole thing. She is the main gist of it. She, Tony comes to the farmhouse for, make a quick buck. And while he's out there, Baby takes him aside and she starts getting involved with him, which Big Shim does not like at all. And she kind of talks Tony into helping her escape. Well, the escape doesn't go too far, and Baby is killed in the escape attempt, and they decide, okay, well, Baby's dead. Never mind the fact we did it, but Baby's dead. Now we got to take it out on Tony, and so they bring him back to the farmhouse, humiliate him, gore him. Shim wears this insane kind of sadomasochistic outfit, which has kind of a very extreme pointed bullet bra that qualifies as an actual weapon, and she does some damage with it. But Brenda, in the meantime, has hired this private detective named Sweetie East, who's very much a play on the Honey West character, and I'll get to her in a minute. But Sweetie East kind of tracks them down to the farmhouse and dispenses most of the She-Mob with a few swift karate moves, and they manage to get away from Shim, who's gone completely batshit. She's got a big machine gun and whatnot. That's when the cops arrive and they get in a big shootout, and she does not survive that. But she, this film is kind of like one of those movies for Mondo, Heather, and I, where it's almost like I describe it as kind of like one of our litmus test flicks that we show people when they come to our house, and it's like, okay, when we show you this, if you can roll with this piece of trash, you're one of us. And
I love litmus test movies for seeing if you're gonna mesh with people well. That's really fun.
Yeah, and we've run a few people off with this movie.
That means I have to check it out. So.
But she's this ruthless, relentless character, and once she decides that Tony has shat in his Wheaties, she's going to kill him. She's absolutely going to destroy him. And for that, she is my number one woman warrior. And when we watch this movie, this is the character we root for.
Gotcha.
That's awesome.
But as an offshoot to that, there's Honey West. And, they do the parody character, Honey East. But that had me wanting to go back and check out the old Honey West series, because I remember that from several years before. One of the premium cable channels was running it on the reg, and I had never seen or heard of it. Guess my parents were busy watching Mannix and respectable shows like that. But Honey West was a show that ran for one season, and I think it was the 1966, 65-66 season. And it was based on a series of pulp novels. Someone came up with this, I guess the whole genesis of the story was, let's have Mike Hammer look like Marilyn Monroe. So they kind of did that. And this story was the show itself was kind of like the development of the pulp novels into a workable TV series. And they had the actress Honey West was played by
Anne Francis.
Anne Francis, that's right. And who, of course, had a fairly good career beforehand.
Forbidden Planet.
Yeah, Forbidden Planet. Anne Francis stars in Forbidden Planet.
Yeah.
But we had but just she cut a pretty good figure as Honey West. She did have a male sidekick, but he was definitely the sidekick. But she was just a great female centric detective show where she was definitely the heroine. She had a pet ocelot. Archer did not do it first.
I love ocelots. They're cool animals.
Like in the Velvet Underground.
Yeah, they're cute. Yeah. Oh, which one was that?
Andy's Chest.
That was Andy's Chest.
Like a pet ocelot on a leash. I'd rather be a kite. Love that song.
Yes, indeed. Swoop, swoop,
Yeah.
rock, rock.
Yeah.
But I just think kind of great, kind of groundbreaking heroine, great TV series, fun little TV series. Little bits of high-tech weaponry here and there, exploding earrings. I was like watching this old episode. I was like, holy crap, she just threw your earrings and they exploded. That's great. But that's all I got on that.
Nice.
Okay.